Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
A big part of the CIA's job is taking down leaders of foreign countries. How long before it does that here in the United States?
Yeah, probably 61 years ago was their first run at this with President Kennedy. It was clearly someone's operation, not Lee Harvey Oswald's.
That's
from
pretty obvious.
All we know, and all of the evidence points in that direction. The most recent evidence that magic bullet, which was one of the justifications of the absurd account of a lone gunman, was also debunked. Most likely it was a government coup.
The magic bullet. You guys remember the magic bullet that somehow changed directions 7 times in the air? Ended up going through like 2 or 3 people and then found itself in pristine, I do believe they used the word pristine condition on a gurney inside the hospital. Oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy stuff. Professor Jeffrey Sachs, Tucker Carlson making an encore on the DSD. I honestly don't know if I've played that clip for you guys before or not, but I'm going through my reservoir of clips of things that I just want to make sure you hear. And again, remember, repetition is the mother of all learning, right? It actually really is the mother of all learning. Like, man, it takes me a lot of time to really understand things. And I'll tell you the 2 that are the best examples of these is, just the overall history of the situation in Gaza between Israel and Palestine. I mean, that honestly is a very difficult overall concept to grasp. And then so is the Russia-Ukraine stuff. It's not easy. It's really not easy. I'm actually in the process of creating some ebook guides on these. I'm actually going to test them out with the Deep Shallow Dive Instagram audience. Honestly, I'm trying to figure out how to monetize that audience. I have 137,000 followers there, 12,000 on Facebook, on the Deep Shallow Dive Facebook page, which, by the way, the Deep Shallow Dive Facebook page, I think I talked about it probably a year ago. And I was like, it's boomer central. And I never even spent any time with it. I actually have my Instagram linked to my Facebook. And so basically pretty much whatever I post on DSD Instagram automatically gets posted on Facebook. And I really never looked at Facebook until it's actually pretty crazy. About a month ago, I had 1,000 followers and I was like, this is not even worth it. And then the other day I looked and I have 12,000 followers. And then I started looking through the threads and holy mackerel, there's enormous conversations and honestly arguments that are happening, which I don't reply to any of that stuff, but it's pretty crazy. So I am going to play some of the clips that have gotten the most action today. I think this will be interesting, and then I'll actually read some of the comments. So let's start off with this one. This is my number 1 and number 2 worst human beings on the planet together.
I'm happy to welcome a good friend of mine and a great friend of Israel, Senator Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, it's good to see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you for your consistent support at all times, and especially in these trying times.
Thank you. Well, this is my 5th visit, I think, since October the 7th. Mm-hmm. I'm here for a reason, to show support to you, my good friend, the elected leader of the state of Israel. I have known you for almost 30 years now. I met you through our good friend John McCain. And I'm here to tell you that I have your back and your country's back.
All right, so obviously Lindsey Graham and Netanyahu, this is crazy. Dude has been over there 7 times since October 7th, or did he say 5 times?
Well, this is my 5th visit, I think, since October the 7th. Mm-hmm.
His 5th visit since October the 7th. If he's going to Tel Aviv, I heard Tel Aviv is super nice. Luckily so Lindsey Graham gets 5 vacations over the past 18 months. on taxpayer dollars. Isn't that crazy? That's seriously crazy. That is absolutely insane. Anyway, obviously you guys know, not a fan of either one of those. So now let's see what the reaction was. Or you know what, I'm not even going to waste time reading the reactions. Obviously it was not good, and a lot of it just talked about really just how awful Lindsey Graham is. Man, he is kind of universally hated. I don't even think Republicans like that guy. Like, how does he stay in office? Like, I just can't get over that. And then obviously Trump put his support behind him again for his upcoming Senate race. That just blows me away. How does that guy stay in office? Okay, let's get some more good clips. You know, this one's pretty interesting. This is a conversation between James Cameron and George Lucas, obviously two incredibly acclaimed and successful Hollywood directors. George Lucas having directed Star Wars and all of that, and James Cameron having directed the Titanic, my favorite movie ever. Just kidding. But listen to this conversation, and I'll set it up a little in that, you know, it's pretty interesting when you think about what you cheer for when it comes to Hollywood and the movies. And you kind of always cheer for the bad guys. Well, no, I shouldn't say the bad guys, but you kind of always cheer for the resistance, you know? Hold on, I just asked ChatGPT. Dude, ChatGPT is seriously freaking incredible. I will say, I had a couple of people ask me, they're like, well, what are you really using? I probably use ChatGPT practically for everything, except I do use Gemini's integration with my Google Gmail. So again, for anyone that has a Google workspace where basically your domain is through Google. I'm not talking about just like a free Gmail, like raydustar@gmail.com, which actually is one of my emails, by the way. I'm not talking about that. That you have to pay for. So if you have their free version of Gmail, in order to get Gemini integrated into that, as well as Google Docs and all that, you have to pay. I think it's $20 a month. But if you have a Google workspace, meaning your domain is hosted through Google, then you can actually just turn that setting on and you'll get free Gemini inside your Google workspace. So again, I'm literally using that to answer 99% of my emails. And it's so easy on the phone. It's insane. You literally just slide your thumb across, and then I'll speak what I want it to say, and then it'll craft an email that again is way better than I normally craft. So anyway, I just asked ChatGPT what that phrase was, and it said, absolutely, Ray. The phrase you're referring to has been circulating widely on social media and goes something like this. You watched The Hunger Games and sided with the resistance. You watched Star Wars and sided with the resistance. You watched Matrix and sided with the resistance. You watched Divergent and sided with the resistance. When it's fiction, you understand oppression. Why do you refuse to see it when it's the reality you're living in? That's pretty powerful. So it goes on to say, this sentiment has been shared across various platforms, including Facebook and X, often accompanied by images or memes to emphasize the point. The core message highlights a disconnect. In fictional narratives, audiences naturally empathize with rebels fighting oppressive regimes. Yet in real-world context, recognizing and opposing similar structures becomes more complex and at times controversial. That's pretty interesting. I mean, that really is the mindset of a lot of people. It's like you side with the resistance in all these movies, but then when it comes to real life and, you know, again, whatever the situation is, I think sometimes it becomes harder to accept. Now, honestly, maybe a lot of that is because, again, as Americans, like, we don't want to think that America is the bad guy. And again, I said it once, I'll say it every time I say this, I'll qualify it by, America, as in all of us, are not the bad guys. It's a small faction of people that are doing bad for their own interests. That's what everybody needs to just realize and wake up to. And I swear, if the masses all got on board with that, I really do think we can implement change and get rid of people like Lindsey Graham. Okay, so now let's listen to this conversation between James Cameron and George Lucas. I think it's actually very interesting, especially now that you have that backdrop.
The good guys are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we call those guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen, we call them Al-Qaeda.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time?
Yes.
So it was a very anti-authoritarian, very kind of 60s against the man kind of thing, nested deep inside a fantasy.
Or a colonial, we're fighting the largest empire in the world.
Right.
And we're just a bunch of hayseeds in coonskin hats that don't know nothing.
That's right.
And it was the same thing with the Vietnamese.
Yep.
The irony of that one is in both of those, the little guys won.
Right.
And the big, highly technical empire,
the English Empire, right?
The English Empire, the American Empire, lost.
Yeah.
That was the whole point.
But that's a classic us not profiting from the lesson of history, because you look at the inception of this country and it's a very noble fight of the underdog against the massive empire. You look at the situation now where America is so proud of being the biggest economy, the most powerful military force on the planet. It's become the empire from the perspective of a lot of people around the world.
It was the empire during the Vietnam War. But we never learned, from England or Rome or, a dozen other empires that went on for hundreds of years or sometimes thousands of years. We never got it. We never said, well, wait, this isn't the right thing to do. And we're still struggling with it.
And they fall because of failure of leadership or government often. And
mostly
you have a great line, which is, so this is how liberty dies.
We're in the middle of it right now.
To thunderous applause. Exactly. It was a condemnation of populism in a science fiction context.
That's a theme that runs all the way through Star Wars.
I think science fiction is so good at these kind of social themes.
Yeah, the great thing about Star Wars is I had a vessel that I could throw anything into.
Anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting conversation and an interesting sort of thing to keep in mind, that, why do we root for the resistance in movies, but then in real life, we don't really believe there is a resistance? Okay. All right, next thing. So we've got another war on our hands. I don't know if you guys saw, but India and Pakistan are basically at war now, I think.
India has launched missile strikes against Pakistan tonight in an apparent response to a deadly terrorist attack in Indian-administered Kashmir 2 weeks ago.
India blamed those attacks on Pakistani militants and struck 9 targets in Pakistani-administered Kashmir. The disputed border region each claims as its own. Nick Schifrin joins us now. So, Nick, what's the latest?
All right, I'm going to cut it off there because, honestly, I need to look into this. I really don't know much about it besides just that it happened, but this is interesting. So I posted a clip, and this was what I wrote underneath it. I wrote, as if there was not already enough chaos in the world, now it looks like India has staged an attack on Pakistan. India and Pakistan are both nuclear powers. Therefore, they have the ability to deter. Anyway, I'll keep an eye on that. I mean, it just got me thinking of what Paul said in the podcast episode where, he really does think there is this intent to try to create this new world order. And again, like this one world government, which, man, to me, that is such a stretch because, really it's like, would that be possible to get Russia, China, the United States, Israel, and Iran, like all on the same side? That would be wild, man. That would be wild. And then who runs it? Who gets to be on the who's in the C-suite? Is Trump the chairman of the board? Is Putin the CEO? Xi Jinping is the what would he be? He'd be like the chief operating officer, maybe. Netanyahu would be like, what would he be? He'd be the chief marketing officer. Yeah, he is pretty good at marketing. The leader of Iran what role would that guy play? Oh my God. Head of supply chain? Like, that's just crazy. Seriously, like this one world order concept. I mean, it's difficult to wrap your mind around, these countries all joining together. But I will say there are some natural lines that are being drawn and some natural teams. And I'll tell you who they are. I mean, on the surface right now, it would be the United States, France, England, Germany, India, Israel. India and Israel are actually very good allies. So I think, prior I would add Canada to that, although I still would add Canada to that because I do think the Canadians have a good relationship with England and France still. So that would be one side, and then the other you'd have Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and then a lot of the African countries, probably Brazil. I think Argentina would line up with the US because that guy Javier Molina is like buddy with Trump. That dude is shady too. I'm going to deep dive into him a little more. And then, yeah, Brazil would go with Russia, China, those guys. And then really most of those African countries would probably line up. Those guys love Putin, man. All these African countries, they are big Putin fans. They're definitely big Putin fans. And they are not fans of the US of A or France, probably France worse. Okay, let me see what else we can play. Oh, you know what? I did want to talk about this. So Casey Means, Dr. Casey Means, remember Casey and Callie Means, the two people that I've talked about that wrote that book, Good Energy, and then it's the brother and sister duo. Man, their names are so weird. I always forget which one's the male and which one's the female. I always think Casey is the male because I went to high school with a guy named Casey Hunt, actually. And so when I hear Casey, I know that is a male and female name, but I always think of Casey Hunt. And so Casey Means, though, is the sister. Callie is the brother. And then, that's funny. When I hear the name Callie, I think of a girl. Man, I think their parents got them backwards. But anyway, so Trump named Casey Means as nomination for our next Surgeon General of the United States. This is so bad. And then he wrote, Casey has impeccable MAHA credentials and will work closely with our wonderful Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, to ensure a successful implementation of our agenda in order to reverse the chronic disease epidemic and ensure great health in the future for all Americans. I seriously wonder if Trump writes his own tweets. Or whatever. Yeah, I guess they're tweets, but I think now he posts them on Truth Social, and then people cut it from there and put it everywhere else. I don't think he writes these that are like press releases. The mean ones, I'm sure he writes, like the ones that's like, I'm gonna cut off everyone's neck if they blah blah blah. I'm sure he writes the mean ones, but I don't know if he writes these anyway. All right. I mean, I don't really know what to think of that. I mean, I do like them, that brother and sister duo. I mean, I think they absolutely woke up something. Now, the question is will that something amount to anything? And will they go after, the things that really matter? And one of those is the whole, vaccine schedule for children and for infants and all of that. I mean, I think that's the one everyone wants them to go after. So somebody posted this, and I thought this was really interesting. It says, some people can't pet a dog, allergic, eat peanut butter, anaphylaxis, get stung by a bee, deadly reaction, take Tylenol, liver risk, use penicillin, severe allergies, eat gluten, autoimmune disease, drink milk, lactose intolerant, wear nickel, skin reactions. And then it said, but you expect everyone, without exception, to tolerate the same injection with a complex list of ingredients without question? When did we stop believing in individual biology? That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. And again, wherever you net out on the whole COVID-19 vaccine situation, God, I'm so glad I can comfortably talk about this now. I think that a statement like that makes a lot of sense, you know? And again, it's not about, I don't even want to take the negative side that like the COVID-19 vaccine had some nefarious purpose. Let's not even worry about that. Let's just agree that, you know, individual human immunology or biology differs. Therefore, there is the chance of adverse reactions on an individual level for somebody having gotten the COVID-19 vaccine. No different than someone who's lactose intolerant or someone who can't eat peanut butter because of anaphylactic shock or whatever. It's like, why are there, or like my mom is allergic to codeine. She can't take codeine. So like, why is it that everything else we're okay with understanding that maybe certain people react differently to certain things, but with that, we have still not come to the general agreement that there is a chance of vaccine related injuries and there is a chance of issues having arrived from people getting, you know, the COVID vaccine. That's pretty crazy, man. That's pretty crazy. So anyway, I thought that was pretty good. Let's see if they make any noise on that front as well. All right, next clip from Tucker Carlson. Man, Tucker is slapping hard these days. So this 9/11, you know, the truth, and then the Epstein files, people are not letting it go, man, which I love that, by the way. I absolutely love that people are just like, they're really losing. I don't want to say, well, the Trump fans, I don't want to say they're losing trust in the administration, but more and more people are starting to really question things with him. And again, I think that's what it's going to take. I mean, it's going to take the MAGA base getting to a tipping point before I think he's really going to do anything. And two of the big sticking, what is that term? Sticking something. Oh my God. Sticking points. Oh my God. What a retard I am. Oh, I'm not supposed to say retard. My bad. Two of the big sticking points are 9/11 and the Epstein files. So give Tucker a listen.
Is it that 23 years after 9/11, files are still classified? Why is that? I had a friend die in 9/11, like probably a lot of people in this room. I was there. Totally changed my life. Why can't I know what exactly happened? It's our government. No federal bureaucrat has the right to tell you that you can't know what your government is doing. Who owns this government? The federal bureaucrat who can't be fired? No, I don't think so. We do. If you wind up in a country with over 1 billion classified federal documents, you are living in an extremely corrupt country. Extremely corrupt. Everyone around the world knows that about the United States. We don't know it. We don't think we live in a corrupt country. We do.
Let me jump in real quick. I mean, this is why I like this guy. It really is. And again, I don't like everything he says, and I don't agree with everything he says, but how many other people with that big of a platform are consistently making statements like that? I mean, basically calling out the United States for being corrupt by classifying over 1 billion documents. And at the same time, he loves the United States. He's absolutely a America first in the truest sense of that word guy. But again, when he's calling out the corruption, he's calling out the individuals, you know, that small uniparty group of people that is the root of all this evil, Lindsey Graham being a key.
And we can fix it super easily. And that's just, let's declassify it. Every 9/11 document should be declassified. Oh, shut up, conspiracy theorist. No. if you want to create conspiracy theories, pull down a curtain of secrecy over what actually happened.
That's seriously such a perfect statement. I mean, when you create that veil of secrecy, it's like when you were a kid and your parents told you couldn't do something. What's the first thing you did? That thing. You did it. So like when they tell you can't have access to that information, it automatically makes us skeptical of what they're hiding.
Why are you afraid to tell me the whole story? Why are you afraid to tell me the truth? We can resolve this right away. Just let me see the evidence. I have a moral right to it. They have no moral right to keep it from us. So if I have one hope secretly for this administration, it's massive declassification. And let's find out what they've been doing. What happened to all the $100 billion we sent to Ukraine? There's been no audit. Oh, they don't want to declassify that? Why? Oh, because it's a scam. That's why.
Tucker Carlson going hard. All right, 25 minutes. I know I have had a few longer ones recently. I'm going to let you guys go. Have a great day. Or night, or whenever you're listening to this. And I will absolutely record for Friday as well. So did we get 4 in this week? Yeah, Monday was Paul Davis. Tuesday, I recorded. Yesterday, I did not. I gave you guys a day to catch up. Today and tomorrow. All right, call a spade a spade.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.